is the Pegasus Podcast, presented by Night Sports Now. UCF news, views, and a few hot takes. Now, here are your hosts, Bailey Go Knights Adams and Christian Charge On Simmons.
Welcome into episode 159. Be sure you're following us on Twitter at BaileyJAdams22, at ByCASimmons, and at Night Sports Now. We will get to a ton of things that we have to get to. The 5-star review question, the things we missed from Boise State, and then the Villanova preview. But I think we should probably just start by talking about the actual concrete information we got on John Rice Plumlee's injury. He will not need surgery, and he will be back this season. I think Gus said it was be a few weeks. That doesn't really tell you anything. Like, a few is technically 3, but like it could be more, could be less. What? Why'd you make that face?
Is it not 3? I
thought a few was 3. I thought a couple was. A couple is 2 because a couple is literally 3. 2. I thought.
What's several?
I thought like 4 or more.
I didn't realize. See, I thought a couple was the only one that was numerical. I thought the others were all just like.
Talk about this news that may or may not define UCF season. We're just like, what does the word several mean?
We're just having like language semantics now. Like, what does several mean to you? Well, there's a seva in several. Does that mean 7 is several? Interesting.
So, that's honestly, I've had to like retrain my brain, because several to me has always meant 7. And I was like, that's not right. It just sounds like 7. So
several means 4 to me. I'm realizing it now. I think several means 4. Like 4 if plus. I had 4 apples, I would say I have several apples. 4 plus, I would say. And that's why I say a few is 3. I don't think 4 plus, because if I had 20 apples, I'd have to come up with a different term. Like, I would say I have several apples.
4 to 20 apples. 4 to 9.
Wait, how many is in a bushel? Because we haven't worked. Wait. Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. We're done. I don't know why I just took it.
But yeah, that's the best news I think we could have gotten.
Yeah, the fact that he's not going to miss a bushel of games is fantastic. I'm glad it's going to be less than that, and that's fantastic. But no, listen, following the game, there were some dark rumors flying out there, and not just like from a couple people, like from people in the know. It was like not looking good. So I was pretty surprised, pretty pleasantly surprised when Gus came up there and said that it's only going to be a few weeks. Now, I will say that I got messages from a few people in the minutes following, included you, who said Gus is lying. Which I don't think I agree, because now listen, you know me, I just said on the last podcast, Gus tends to not give information. And I was really surprised when he not only said, I figured he'd open the press conference with an update.
He'd open it up.
That was not that funny. I'm just laughing way too much at it.
Wasn't.
I finished, he'd open the press conference. I almost said press box again. Press conference with an update. I was surprised by how specific the update was. I was surprised that he also then promised to give week-to-week updates on how it's going, which
I don't believe that.
I'll believe it when I see it, yeah.
That part I think he is lying about.
I also don't believe that he will ever, like, I'll bet you money right now that there will not be a game where he says, great news, JRP is back this week. It'll just be like some game down the road, JRP is going to run out of the huddle, and it's going to be like, okay, he's back, because they're going to want to catch an opponent off guard.
I think to him, updates like every week, someone will ask about John. He's like, he's getting better. That's what he'll say. Yeah. That'll be his.
He's a warrior. He's getting better. Yeah. He means a lot to this team, and he's still a leader off the field, and we're excited for his progress.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see where he's at.
The other thing I will say is the other reason I do not believe that Gus Malzahn is lying, so you clarify to me what you meant, because someone told me they thought he was lying in that they believe he's out for the season and they don't want to say it. What did you think when you told me that you believe Gus is lying to us?
Originally that like it would not be very likely that he'd come back for the season, but he didn't know for sure, so he just wasn't going to say it because he just wants to keep building. But once you told me like so I didn't watch the press conference yet, I just didn't have time. And once you told me like he was kind of saying that John Rice's reaction to like not being out for the season was so one of such relief, it was like, okay, well, like that kind of adds to like, yeah, I don't actually think he's lying now. But I do think he's lying about giving real updates as the season goes on.
That's fair, and I respect it. But yeah, that was my take for why I believe that he's being at least mostly truthful. Is that it would be say that JRP is out for the year and they've some reason decided to lie, which I think would be odd to begin with. Following up with, he was so thrilled to hear that he's not going to miss the season. Weird thing to say about a player who just got out there after the year. So now the thing to me is a few weeks is such a general term. Like, does that mean he's back for Kansas? Does that mean he's back for the Space Game in 2 months? Like, I don't know. And it brings up a lot of questions about JRP too, because, he got hurt last year and he came back and just wasn't himself. And that played a big role in UCF season last year ending the way it did. So just because he is healthy at some point in the season doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to come back and be the player he just was, which is really damn unfortunate, because I said on our last podcast, I felt like that Boise State game was the best game of his career. I feel backed up by that he had the highest PFF grade of his career. It was the 5th highest PFF grade in the nation. It was a 91, which is like insane. It sucks that the first time in my entire time as a John Rice Plumlee follower that he played a game and I was like, I actually truly think he's put it together. I don't think this is fluky. This wasn't against a bad opponent. There weren't weird circumstances. It was just straight up like he went out on the road in a tough environment and against a good team and delivered and delivered and delivered. And I think that is fantastic.
And that's where it kind of gets like harder to even really talk about the rest of the season because we don't actually know what the injury was. They're not going to be specific about it. So like when he does come back eventually, assuming he does, we're not going to know like, I believe it's his knee. It looked like his knee. But we're not going to know if it was like a sprain, if it was, we're not going to know what it was. So like, we don't know whether to say, is this something that's going to be like, oh, he'll get back to the point where he can play, or like he can be back to 100% and play like the way he plays. I don't know. It's going to be difficult because he did. He came back last year and it was like, oh yeah, he's healthy enough to play, but he couldn't run. He couldn't do the things that make him him. So what value is that really?
Yeah, that's a good point too. And also, I just want to say to our listeners that I realized while Bailey was talking that never plugged in my mic for this podcast. So if my sound quality was worse, which I believe it was for that opening, I apologize. It should be fine now. My bad. But you know what? You make an interesting point because, yeah, that was part of the issue last year was what he was so good at was making plays with his legs, running the ball, all that stuff. And he just couldn't really do that effectively after the injury. And there were games like USF where he could for a little bit and then just re-injured it or, exacerbated it or whatever. And that was that. The one thing I will say is that he feels a lot more confident as a passer this year. He seems a lot better as a passer. So maybe, honestly, against Boise, he didn't run the ball a ton. So part of me is like, if that were the case, maybe things would be more okay.
More okay than it was last year. Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's probably true.
Regardless, this is already such a better conversation than I was expecting to have because we were talking about it last night. I was expecting to get on this pod and be like, okay, whole season shot because JRP's not coming back. I was like trying to figure out if he could get a red shirt or not. And now it's like, hey, apparently he could be back in a few weeks. So
a few weeks. So that's the other thing I wanted to say before we moved on was if I had to guess, because I think earlier I said to you, like a few weeks feels like Kansas, but then with the bye week being after Kansas, I'm starting to think now maybe it's going to be Oklahoma. And
knowing nothing about the injury itself, I got Oklahoma. Yeah.
And that's over a month away. So it feels like a conservatively good guess, but knowing John Rice Plumlee, I hope he doesn't come back too fast. That's like the scary part. Like, I don't think they'll let him, hopefully, but knowing that it's a conservative guess, I feel like he's going to end up probably beating that guess and being back earlier.
Let me offer you a hypothetical that I do not believe is going to happen. I feel like I should clarify with that. This is not my belief in any way, shape, or form. I would be stunned if this happened, but I'm going to throw it out there because what are podcasts for if not throwing out hypotheticals that probably won't occur? What if Timmy's just awesome? Like, what if Timmy just is insane and lights it up and UCF's undefeated or close to it? It doesn't matter, right?
I don't think it does, oddly. I mean,
I weirdly don't think there's anything Timmy could do in the next few games that would keep JRP on the bench after he's healthy. I don't think so.
Yeah, because logically you'd want to say okay, if he just goes out there and he just puts up 3-5 touchdown performances in a row, how do you bench him after that? But it's knowing what we know about Gus, it's John Rice is the starter, and Gus is like, okay, our starter is healthy, he's back. You'll feel really good about Timmy going into next year, I guess, but
that's exactly what Gus said when they re-benched Mikey after the Memphis game going to Tulane. He said that you don't lose your job due to an injury. And at the time I was like, maybe you should, but it worked out. He beat Tulane and it didn't work out the rest of the year, but it worked out for the game right after that. That's the thing. The only scenario I could see where that's even a conversation is if UCF is literally somehow undefeated. They have won all of these games and Timmy has looked really good at that point. But I don't JRP's going to be back. I feel like we can say that pretty firmly right now from what we know.
And even then, I feel like if he did somehow continue to start Timmy when JRP's healthy, the first sign of trouble would be okay, JRP's back.
Yeah.
If he ran into some issues, I don't know, ineffectiveness, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we did this in a really weird order. I don't know why I did this conversation before the 5-star review question. Should we do the 5-star review question now or just move it to the news? Let's
just do it at the end.
Okay.
Because I feel like we're on a roll now. We're right about talk about Timmy, right? I feel like that's just the natural progression here.
And then we'll go to now what we missed from Boise State, which we can get through pretty quickly. Obviously, the dominant conversation in the days since has probably been about John Rice Plumlee and his health. But now that taking care of that, we kind of have an answer on that. And we will move forward to Villanova in a minute, but some of the couple things. We will start with the wide receivers and how we talked about, I think, out of the Kent State game. I don't think we probably maybe did jump to conclusions because that's what you do after 1 week.
Of course.
But we were like, Xavier Townsend is the offense. Like, he's just going to be the guy in the offense. And then it was less the case against Boise State, and you saw more of Javon and more of Kobe. And Kobe had like a career game, despite the tipped interception that he had. But we saw less targets for Townsend. I think he had one catch for 5 yards. He had a 39-yard run early in the game. He also had a really good punt return. Sometimes on kick returns, I'm not the biggest, I don't know. Well, I have to see more, but it was just like a kind of a step. I don't say a step back. It was just kind of a course correction almost, where it's like, all right, all three of these guys are going to be involved throughout the course of the year. It's not just going to be an improved Xavier Townsend and he's just the guy now.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I'm not ready after 2 games to be like, yeah, Townsend, whatever. I mean, it is a little. I wouldn't have guessed after Kent State that he would have ended up having 2 touches outside of special teams.
Yeah,
in this game. But that's the difference between this year's wide receiver room and past years, is that they do have 3 just legitimate great options in there with Kobe and Javon and Xavier, where it's like not every guy is going to shine every night, and I don't then have to worry about the depth of the room. I think Xavier just being out there on the field is valuable. And let me say, I can tell you Gus feels the same way. He got the most kind of annoyed I've ever seen him get with any media member at UCF. Someone, I don't remember who it was. Someone asked a question at the presser today. It was about Townsend, and they referred to Townsend as a gadget player at one point, and Gus just stops and was like, well, did he look like a gadget player? Did he look like a wide receiver to you? And there was just enough of a pause where I'm like, is he expecting the reporter to answer this question? And then he was like, looked like a receiver to me. So whoever's telling you he's a gadget player, I wouldn't listen to that. But he was just very upset at that character.
It's a weird thing to get annoyed by, I think.
He's gotten questions over the last year that are basically just veiled versions of why are you starting John Rice Plumlee? And he's been fine with those, but Townsend is a gadget player. That hits some kind of limit for him. So I think Gus really likes Townsend. I think they have a lot of creative ways to use him. I think he's going to go on to have a big year, but to me, that wasn't an alarm bell at all. It was just that's really cool that we saw Javon and Kobe have really solid games outside of literally 2 plays that, made me want to smack my head against the table, but those happen. And I'm not holding, I didn't come out of the game, even though some people on Twitter did, because you guys are fun, about people are not as high on Javon now because of that, even though he's been a fantastic receiver the whole time he's been here because of one bad. It's
all I have to say to that is go watch that catch he made near the sideline earlier in the game. And I rewatched some of the game yesterday or last night. And I think people could tell that by my 10:30 PM tweet about Marcus Bowman on a Sunday night. But the catch that he made near the sideline was a contested catch. And it's just, I don't know. I don't want to go too far. I don't want to say it was one of the best catches I've ever seen, but it was very impressive. It was a really, really good catch.
You're not going to be talking about greatest catches in UCF history and be that cool one in the second quarter of the Boise State game. But just as far that was one of the more
athletic,
more difficult catches I've seen a receiver make, a UCF receiver. So and Kobe Hudson got 5 catches for 134 yards. I mean, they him and Javon balled out, and Xavier still contributed. And I feel
the only other thing I feel about the wide receiver room is I'm officially worried through 2 games that none of the transfer wide receivers are good.
Well, we haven't really seen any of them except Trent, right? Yeah. Has Magwood even got on the field for? I know he's got on the field. Has he even had any touches yet? I don't know if he has.
Not that I remember.
Corey Gamage, who knows? I mean, I unfortunately, it literally looks like we're
not past the threshold yet, though.
It is funny how basically our take the whole offseason was, wow, they must be really worried about the wide receiver room because they won't stop adding wide receivers. And now we're 2 games into the season, and it seems pretty clear that they have a really, really strong 3 deep room of receivers, and they're all guys who are already here. Yeah. And all the transfers are just they're around if something happens to one of the main guys, but that's pretty much it. And maybe that's what they needed. Maybe it was behind those 3 guys. They felt like they didn't have anything and they had to go get it. Who knows?
Right. And we're not past the threshold where I'm just still holding out hope where it's all right, Gamage is going to get into shape, and maybe halfway through the season, he'll just be just a force.
Yeah. We're 2 games out. We're only a sixth of the way through the season right now. So there's still plenty of time for see. Corey Gamage to hit the weight room, run around the track. I don't know. Just be better at football. Who knows? I still just, that's insane to me. And I'll never, that's just one of those things that I'm going to be thinking about for the rest of time. It's remember when Corey Gamage was this giant addition, and then JRP and Gus said not in shape, can't play, and then Hinshaw, was it Gus or was it Hinshaw? Maybe it was all
JRP.
3.
I don't know if Hinshaw did. I remember Gus and JRP specifically saying it on the same day in back-to-back press conferences.
I mean, not even in the 2 deep. not even in the 2 deep. And I thought he was going to be like transfer of the year. So just goes to show that there is no reason to even think in the postseason or in the preseason, in the not season, whenever it's not season time is what I'm trying to say. Whatever the term is for that spate of time. No point in predicting anything because you just don't know.
Yeah. Next thing is UCF's linebackers, and not that they're bad, but I just don't feel like they've just been there the first 2 weeks. Like even against Kent State, I don't think they really made any plays where I was like, oh wow, what a play. And I don't know if they're still kind of figuring out, and I didn't really pay the closest of attention to snap counts or anything like that, but I don't know if they're still trying to figure out who the guy next to Jason Johnson's going to be. Because I know they have Ryan Davis and they have Walter Yates that they've
Walter Yates played a lot. I think playing. Yates is that guy.
But I haven't been very impressed.
I'm not ready to call them bad by any means. It just through 2 games, it just feels like, I'm trying to think of the way to phrase it. They're just maybe not as effective as I would have hoped. It just feels like they're kind of, which secondary, after all our freakouts over Kent State, secondary seemed fine against Boise. So Corey Thornton,
Thornton had a good game.
My goodness, that Corey Thornton has the entire fan bases at varying points wanted him benched all the way back to 2020. And he's out here with pass breakups and interceptions and all kinds of stuff. So it's just more like 2 games in, I'm like, if I had to guess right now, when we're looking back on the end of the season, what part of the defense was the part that was most ineffective or the weakest part, I'm probably going to pick the linebackers. And there were some alarm bells for that. I like Walter Yates a lot. Spoke to the media today. He's been a really solid addition, but him getting the start over Ryan Davis had me a little that room might not have the depth we were hoping. So it's a concern, and it's something we'll keep an eye on. And let me tell you, it hasn't really shown up in these first 2 games. It's going to show up eventually. That's going to cost them at some point. So we'll see what happens there, but.
Yeah, some of the running backs and some of the offenses in this conference that they're going to see, we'll expose that. So
these teams smell blood, by the way. Oh my God, because Brett McMurphy tweeted the news that JRP is out for a few weeks, and I was going through the quote tweets, and it's all these Kansas, Baylor, and Kansas State media members and fans being like, UCF is not going to have their quarterback for the next few weeks. You know what that means? We're going to win a game, and it's like you guys are just you're like vultures. Good Lord. I mean, I'd be doing the exact same thing, but sheesh, guys.
Yeah. And then the final thing from Boise State, we really need to make sure, I don't know, just we as a fan base and everything, as a UCF community, need to make sure that Greg McCrae has the opportunity to meet Colton Boomer.
What the hell was that? What were those tweets? Why don't you say them so people know what we're talking about?
Well, that's you're putting me on the spot now because I actually haven't pulled them up.
Oh,
but
I have them.
He basically tweeted twice that he really, really wants to meet Colton Boomer. I think it was after the first long kick, and then after the game
Colton Boomer's the 55-yarder. If you don't know who Greg McCrae is, then I don't know where you're listening to this podcast.
Stop listening to our podcast. Leave now and forever.
Greg McCrae was UCF's very good running back from 2017, actually, 2017 through 2020. His best season was 18. He is my personal favorite UCF player ever. I think he's probably yours too. Absolutely love Greg McCrae. And Greg McCrae tweeted after Boomer's 55-yarder, "I would like to meet Boomer." And then later in the game, I don't even think this was when he hit the game winner, just another field goal. Greg McCrae tweeted again, "How can I meet Boomer? I need his @ or something." I don't know what's going on there, but I've never I wouldn't have laughed nearly as much if he was just like, "Wow, this Boomer kid is good." Or Boomer, he's like, "I need to meet him. I need to speak to this person."
He wants to shake his hand. He tweeted, I think, I don't know if that one was after the game winner or not, but then he tweeted again later at Boomer Colton. So someone must have given him his @ and said at Boomer Colton, and then with the handshake, it said "big time player," the handshake emoji.
I didn't even see
and
that.
He did reply to someone because someone said, "Do you get to Orlando very often, Greg? Coach always welcomes old players to practice." And he said, "Up in Canada in the CFL, hopefully I get to come down soon and catch a game." I hope he does too, because I want him to meet Colton Boomer, and I also would just love to see him back in the bounce house, just because. Yeah, I mean, he is one of my favorite players I've ever seen play for UCF. So
I need to. I don't usually repeat tweets on the podcast that are from private accounts, but I made up that rule, so I'm allowed to break it. And I have to point out that Marlon Williams also tweeted. He's on private, but he did tweet during the game, "I wish Boomer was our kicker in 2020." So
Quadri Jones also does.
So is that what happened? Does the entire 2020 squad just hate Daniel Obarski? Is that because literally that's 3 of them who tweeted things along those lines? No, 2 of them, excuse me. And then Daniel Obarski also tweeted. That was the person I was including as the third. I don't think Daniel Obarski hates himself, but he did tweet congratulating Boomer.
Okay, I actually missed that one, but that's funny. Yeah, I don't know. The 2020 team probably doesn't have the utmost appreciation for him.
I feel bad for Obarski because it's not like he wanted.
He's just going to be remembered.
Kicks,
yeah, no, of course not. But he's just going to be remembered by everyone as just remember that time UCF had a really bad kicker?
I feel like if right now I just went up to random UCF fans, not like UCF fans who don't know things, UCF fans who would be listening to podcasts like this, and I was like, "Who is UCF's kicker in 2019?" How many would be able to tell me that kicker's name?
Was it Dylan Barnes?
It was Dylan Barnes.
It was Dylan Barnes, right? Yeah.
I feel like no one remembers Dylan Barnes because he just made his kicks. Like he was perfectly good. And I feel like everyone knows Daniel Obarski. Like that is a name that lives in infamy among the fan base at this point.
Yeah, it's tough, but
it is tough. Did he ever get on anywhere when he transferred?
I don't know. I really don't know. I thought I saw him maybe somewhere. I don't know where it would have been.
If he was watching UCF's game on TV on Saturday night, then probably not, I guess.
Yeah, I guess maybe not. Unless he played earlier in the day. Who knows? But no, I haven't seen anything. I don't know where he would have landed. Let's get into the Villanova preview. Why not? We talked a lot at the top about John Rice Plumlee, and we at least know now that he will not be playing on Saturday, even though he will be back in the future. He will not be playing Saturday. It will be Timmy McClain starting for UCF against Villanova. Back at the bounce house. And our main storyline for this game is, and a lot of this whole preview is just going to be about Timmy McClain. So you're in for a Timmy podcast for almost the rest of it.
It is Timmy time.
How will the offense run with Timmy McClain at quarterback? And I mean, according to Gus earlier, it was just like they don't need to change anything schematically. They just really will try to play to his strengths. And from what Gus has said, from what Darren Hinshaw said on Sunday night, and from what I think a couple players have said now, like apparently he just has a really good deep ball. That's what they keep saying.
This is what annoys me, though, and not annoys me, but I have a bit of a conspiracy.
You think it's like the company line?
No, I don't know,
because there's the company line before about JRP was he's not. It's a night and day difference because everybody kept saying that. So do you think they're all like, all right, here's like kind of generally what we're going to talk about Timmy?
Walter Yates said that he has flavor and has sauce.
So I like that.
That I like.
I like that. Yeah.
Walter Yates at the presser today seemed to be legitimately in awe of what he has seen Timmy McClain do, and said that it was difficult to describe. So that made me happy.
Can't put it into words.
So I'm gonna say it. I told you last night. I have a conspiracy theory about UCF. Like everyone, I'm gonna say it on the podcast. I wasn't going to. Everyone, join me in putting on your tinfoil hats while we venture into the land of conspiracy, because I have no facts. Or Bailey's looking around like he might have a tinfoil hat. Do you have a tinfoil hat?
No, I don't. No.
You were so convincingly looking around, like you were like, hold on.
That was a treat for those who watch on YouTube. That's why you need to be watching on YouTube, to watch me fake look around for a tinfoil hat.
I personally could not care less where you guys watch. It'd be cool if more people watch on YouTube, because that's added like an hour and a half to the time it takes me to post the podcast now. But it's worth it anyway. But where was I going with that? Oh, conspiracy theory.
Your conspiracy theory, yeah.
All off season. And this wasn't so much in pressers. Well, a little bit from Hinshaw, because Hinshaw just says whatever comes to his mind, I guess. And it's really great. And I'm loving his pressers because they're actually informative and not in like a way that would damage the team, or he gives you honest answers. But we've heard a lot, especially like off, like not in pressers, but just like what's out there, that Timmy McClain just isn't that good. There's a huge gap between him and JRP. And, he's even battling with risk for second string. There's nothing there, And of course, today it's like, man, Timmy, he's awesome. He's so ready. He's going to crush it, which isn't a surprise. Of course, they're going to pump up their player. But my conspiracy theory is that Timmy McClain was never bad. And that UCF, given the quarterback controversy mess they just went through last year, wanted to get the message out there that there is no chance of a quarterback controversy this year. And there's no reason to even talk about anyone but JRP. That's my tinfoil hat conspiracy. I have no evidence of.
It's at least possible. I think the big thing was, especially for much of the spring, it was like there was JRP, there was Tommy behind him, and then we weren't hearing anything about Timmy. It was just like, yeah, he's kind of there. We weren't hearing anything. Tommy transfers, then the whole summer happens, and then we kind of get, oh yeah, like obviously John Rice is the starter, and they're kind of getting like, oh yeah, like we're really happy. I think Hinshaw was talking about how happy he was with the progress that Timmy had made. And the only thing, like, and I don't know if this is just falling in line with that, or if this is really the reason or what happened. Because I think Hinshaw might have even said in his press conference Sunday, like in the spring, he wasn't ready. Like he wouldn't have been ready. He said it in the spring. Times. Yeah, he was not ready, but like he feels like he is now. So maybe he really did just have that good of a summer and that good of a fall camp. And that's why we're hearing more. And that's why we're hearing that he's ready to go now. But I don't know. I mean, I think there is, I don't know if I don't want to like say, yeah, like that's absolutely the case, but it was like, and it still, I don't want to say it's like still a problem because we've kind of fueled it a little bit, but it's like, it was toxic at points last year because it was like, no matter what happened, there was arguments. And
well, don't start the wrong quarterback and, yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that it was wrong for that, but I'm saying maybe UCF would take that course. I don't know.
I don't know why you're trying to back up my theory and I'm arguing with you. Like, you're like, yeah, I could see. And I'm like, well, like, whatever. But I will say that you're right in that. And I'll disprove my own theory now because you are right. Hinshaw, who tends to be pretty honest, said on a couple occasions that Timmy was not ready in spring. He called out over the months, he's called out a couple different things. He's mentioned that he just didn't have command of the playbook, which is understandable. He was running scout team all last year. Yeah. And that his ball security was bad. Hinshaw talked in a couple different pressers that he wasn't really playing like a quarterback. He was playing like, I was going to say he was playing like JRP. He was, he was just basically ball security wasn't good. He was way too quick to give up on plays and just run around and do crazy things.
Yeah.
I remember Hinshaw specifically called out that he would carry the ball like Michael Vick and just kind of have it like out in one hand over here. And he was like, we do not do that here at UCF. And that's not happening. But even before the JRP injury, like leading into the season, Hinshaw was praising him a lot and talking about how far he'd come along. And we always knew the raw athleticism was there. That's what we liked about him in the first place. I tweeted this on November 6th of 2021. I said, USF's quarterback is the most chaotic player I've ever watched, I think. I think this guy is literally going to be the best player in the AAC within a couple of years. So and then in the replies, I learned the story of how, because I didn't know who he was, I learned the stories about how he absolutely would have come to UCF if he'd gotten a UCF offer, but Josh Heupel was busy out in, like Arkansas and Arizona and whatnot, looking for quarterbacks to bother offering one in his backyard. So it's been a long time coming with Timmy becoming UCF starting quarterback. And I'm kind of like, I obviously would give anything and strongly prefer the JRP have not gotten hurt. And those are kind of two separate things to me where I really wish he were not hurt. But I also do feel this sense of excitement where I'm like, I'm excited to see Timmy. This is a guy that we've been talking about for a couple of years and should have signed with UCF out of high school and showed promise as a true freshman at Florida State, at USF. And I'm excited to see him. I hope it goes well.
No, I'm absolutely excited. And I wonder if part of like the whole, he was running scout team last year. I wonder if part of the being too quick to give up on plays was just having to retrain him because he played behind USF's offensive line for his freshman season. I don't know.
We are getting the jabs in on this episode.
I'm very, very excited to see him play. And I think that's where having this game against Villanova is going to be beneficial because he kind of gets like a clean slate where it's like, okay, go out there and like get your feet under you. And of course, I mean, there's going to be another team across the field. Like they're going to try to win the game, but UCF can win this game and kind of just let him kind of get his feet before jumping into a road game at Kansas State next week and then conference play coming after that. So having this game against Villanova, I think, not that you ever want to have an injury or starting quarterback, but it came at a time where UCF can manage it a little bit easier than it would have if at the end of the Villanova game, for whatever reason,
it's good.
John Rice Plumlee was getting hurt.
Can I point out one more thing that I found interesting, a little duality of press conference comments, which I know that we often say don't listen to press conference comments, but sometimes we do. And last year,
the only access we get, so
that's true. It really is. Man, when I was covering back under Frost, it was wild covering the team guys. Like it was a different time. Like I could text the SID or whoever and be like, "Can I talk to Killens?" And then they'd say, "Yeah," and then I'd get there. And they'd say, "I forgot Killens has class. Sorry, you can't talk to him." But still, it was cool anyway.
Yeah.
So last year when JRP got hurt and Gus was having his press conferences talking about how Mikey was going to be remember he wouldn't say he was going to be the guy for Memphis, but we all knew it was going to be Mikey. He was asked about the offense and if they were going to change what they do to fit Mikey. And he basically said no. He said that our offense is our offense and we're going to run it the same way, and which they ended up kind of doing. Like we kind of forced Mikey to like try these plays that he was just not, equipped to run. Yeah. He was asked a similar question at the press conference today and talked about how Timmy has different strengths than John Rice Plumlee, and that while the overall system they run obviously isn't going to change in a week, they may alter specific play calls and try to put him in situations to succeed. That was interesting to me. Just the difference in the comments between 2 years was interesting to me.
I wonder what it is. I wonder if it's a product of just it being a different quarterback or if it being like he's more of the style of quarterback that Gus likes. So they can kind of just make those tweaks rather than just having like change the whole offense for a different type of quarterback. Or if it's actually like Hinshaw and Gus like getting together and being like, this is what we can do to tweak things. Whereas that wasn't a conversation last year with Chip Lindsey. I don't know. I don't know what it was.
I kind of wonder about it. And that's one thing that I haven't given enough credit to with Hinshaw is because I think that we're at the point now through 2 games where I can say that I think it's less that Hinshaw brought in his own offense is that Hinshaw is running Gus's offense. Is that a fair characterization of the first 2 games?
100%. You've seen the passes that RJ Harvey has had to throw, so.
Valid. I like to think this isn't how play calling works, but I like to think that Gus is specifically, he's like grabbing the mic and he's like, now do it now, run the RJ play. But I do, one thing that I think they just didn't have last year was Gus didn't have enough. And this isn't me like trying to like trash Gus's play calling, because you and I would argue about this. I didn't hate the play calling last year as much as everyone else did. It's more just about having voices in the room. And I think that this year Gus has some really good voices in the room, from Darren Hinshaw to Will Healy that just weren't at his disposal last year. Like Chip Lindsey, not a great offensive mind from. I'm not trying to go out of the way to trash Chip Lindsey, but I feel like that's a pretty fair characterization of how he was perceived both in the coaching world and at UCF. And it just seems like having guys in the room this year. I mean, Hinshaw, Gus, and Healy are three guys who it's like, you trust all their opinions a lot. And that's probably helping the team as a whole.
Yeah, I think so. Let's get into our key stats for this Villanova game on Saturday. The first two will be Timmy centric. The first one being about McClain's last start against an FCS team. It was as a freshman when he was at USF. In that start, he completed 12 of 23 passes for a touchdown, and he ran for 53 yards. We kind of use that as like a jumping off point for like, that was 2 years ago. He's had a year where he's adjusted to being at UCF. He ran the scout team last year because he was ineligible due to the transfer rules and all that. And now he's had another offseason of getting into UCF's offense and just being older. Being experienced, getting some of that experience as a freshman. So I'm kind of wondering what he'll look like now. And I mean, I would think it would be a safe bet that he'll look better. I'm curious to see where the leaps are and see, what kind of stat line he can put up and what kind of overall performance, just kind of seeing him command the offense and get the ball to his receivers. Because as we were talking about all offseason, like John Rice has a lot of good talent around him. As long as he can just not make too many mistakes and get the ball to those playmakers, UCF's going to be in pretty good shape. And I think we've seen that over the first 2 weeks. So as long as Timmy can do that, I will be pretty happy.
And that's what gives me optimism is this isn't one of those seasons where I'm like, man, if Timmy doesn't ball out and do crazy stuff, then UCF's screwed. Like through 2 games, I've seen enough to say I feel really good about a lot of parts of this offense. The running backs are just as deep as we thought they would be. Wide receivers look good. O-line's been like not terrible, better than last year so far, I think is fair to say. That we know if they have a tight end. Like they've got so many guys who can make plays, and it's just if he can just we know he has the legs to get out of bad situations. If he can just deliver the ball where it needs to go, make plays, let the other guys cook, we're fine. That's all we need. Yeah. And I do want to say, I don't want to put ridiculous expectations, unachievable expectations, one might say, on Timmy McClain. But when I saw that stat line, my brain was like, that is such a 2016 Milton stat line, like right before he felt like, and that was why I initially was so drawn to McClain when he was a freshman at USF, was he was just one of those guys where it's like, yeah, the stats suck because he's a true freshman on a bad team and he's just messing around and doing some dumb things. But every game you watched of him, you'd see at least a few of these flashes where you're just like, there's something there, Yeah. And that's why I still wish JRP wasn't hurt, but I'm also, I am cautiously excited to see what Timmy brings to the table, because this is about next year too. Timmy's going to be back next year and we don't know who the competition is going to be. Risk has looked very good. Riley Trujillo's coming in. It wouldn't surprise me if they went to go get a transfer, but it would be cool. And this is me like raising, like hoping that this happens more than me expecting it to happen. But it would be cool if in these next few weeks, however long that may be, Timmy does enough to cement himself as the favorite going into next season for us to say, hey, I think we've got something here post JRP. That's my hope. Yeah, no, I absolutely hope so. And I'm sure, they hope so. I'm sure he hopes so, because he wants to probably, be able to take command of this team when the time comes. And I think it'd be really good to see. I wanted to quickly, before we move to the next stat, I didn't want to say that there was a real bet on yourself moment, because USF fans really trashed him for transferring. And even I was like, glad we got him, but I don't know if I would have transferred into this room, because he transferred into a room of John Rice Plumlee, Mikey Keene, and Tommy Castellanos. Yeah. And you don't really see a path to the field there. And then this is the third game he's going to have eligibility for, and he's starting. Yeah. Crazy. It's kind of one of those things where like we were kind of wondering like, wow, Tommy transferring kind of seemed weird, and then in 2 games he's starting at Boston College. So this is let's go down another tangent, because that's what we do here. Is Tommy Castellanos transferred out, which don't blame him for that. It was a weird situation. But he's now the starter at Boston College. That's great. Do you think, if you're Tommy, do you regret transferring out, since right now you'd be starting for UCF if you stayed? No. I'm sure that UCF is nationally at this point considered a better job than Boston College. I also should point out that Boston College has, in their first 2 games, lost to Northern Illinois and gone to overtime with Holy Cross. So that's clearly a very bad team. Maybe a little bit, but yeah, I don't know. But he also, Boston College is presumably the guy for the year, when he would be giving that job back up after a few weeks. A few weeks stint, and then not have no guarantees going into next year. So yeah, maybe not. I mean, he wanted to play, and it's a much bigger stage here though. Which, God, it's weird to say that about Power 5 team versus UCF, but honestly, in the past, like it's been like, because they had the Power 5 label. Yeah, that's like nationally, like, oh yeah, they're an ACC, but like UCF has been in recent years, like, what has Boston College done in like in the last 10 years? A long time. 15, But there
the
are
last
fans.
Boston College player I can remember was Matt
Ryan
Ryan.
O'Keefe.
Well, yeah, but no, I'm talking about Matt Ryan, like way back. Who has played an NFL career and is now retired in the CBS broadcast booth. Like that's the last time I thought about Boston College football.
This was me learning that Matt Ryan went to Boston College, by the way.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. But the other thing to look at too is like we say that and it's true, but this isn't like which team is better. Like there are a lot of college football fans, especially casual college football fans, where UCF was the highest they could be ranked in that fan's mind is 66th because every Power 5 team is better than any Group of 5 team. It's just a lot of people think that way. So it's nice that UCF no longer has to deal with that, at least for a little bit, until it becomes a Power 2 and we go back to that. But it still won't be as bad because they'll be a lot richer and they won't be where USF is. So,
well, I almost feel like this is kind of an extension of that. Is like if UCF wins this week, which I would assume they will, they're 3-0 going into that Kansas State game. They're probably going to get some votes again.
Yeah, which they got one AP vote last week and then they lost it after the Boise game. So they're not really on anyone's radar right now, which whatever. Yeah. But I mean, this is going to be, this isn't one of our key stats. And I almost don't want to say it on the podcast, but I'm going to anyway, because it means nothing. So don't take this and be like, but I was like, UCF doesn't start 3-0 a whole lot. I was like, I wonder what their combined record is in seasons they've started 3-0. It's 47-5. That's UCF's combined, and they're basically guaranteed a 3-0 start here. So it's just like, not going to happen this year because their record when they start 3-0 in the Big 12 is 0-0 so far. But,
Well, that was a moment for me on Saturday night's podcast when I was like, wow, UCF got to 2-0, which is something they couldn't do last year.
No. The last 3-0 season was 2019.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Because they were 2-0. In 2021, they were 2-0 and they lost at Louisville. So
then last year they were 1-1.
Wow. Okay. On the key stat number 2, Timmy McClain will become the 5th quarterback to start a game for UCF in the last 5 seasons.
Can you name them in order?
In the last 5 seasons. So what does that start with? 2018?
19.
Brandon Wimbush. I almost skipped right to Dylan Gabriel. Brandon Wimbush.
That was the one I thought I was going to get you on. So I feel like I'm screwed now, but go ahead.
Dylan Gabriel.
Yes.
Mikey Keene.
Yes.
John Rice Plumlee.
Yeah. Why are you now hesitating as you're getting to current times?
Oh, and then Timmy.
And Timmy McClain. Yeah.
For some reason I was thinking there was another one before Timmy. So confusing.
Well, I panicked because I made that stat and I texted you this morning. I was like, just my dumb brain. I was like, wait, did Tommy start against Tulane? Like,
I did the same thing just now where I was like, did Tommy start a game last year? No, he didn't. But
if you go back to 6 years, then it becomes 7 quarterbacks because it's Mackenzie Milton and Daryl Mack.
Yeah.
So UCF, whole lot of quarterbacks have been starting games.
Daryl Mack, who did give a vote of confidence to Timmy McClain today on Twitter.
Here's a question for you: who did more for UCF, Daryl Mack or Mikey Keene as backup quarterback battle?
I almost more for UCF. Well, I mean, Mack won a conference championship.
He did.
So I'd probably.
But he also only ever played in 3 games and lost.
He had such a bizarre career.
He just showed up, put up one of the most dominant UCF quarterback performances of all time in a conference title game, and then he vanished. Like it was just like
it just depends on it depends on how you're going to value it because he won a conference championship game, and then you look at Mikey and like that win over Florida did a lot for UCF in recruiting. So like if you look at that aspect of it, then that's a big like thing for him. Their win over Cincinnati that he led the game-winning drive.
First top 25 win in like 4 years at the time.
Interesting thought. Like
I think I'd go Mac.
I probably would. Yeah. I probably would. And I think if you presented that on Twitter, people would downplay what Mikey did a lot, I think.
Yeah, but a lot of people really don't like Mac. I feel like that's kind of been a common thread, which I don't totally get
strange.
Because that was like UCF's dream season and 99% of quarterbacks step in. They're not putting up 6 touchdowns in a conference title game. I can tell you that.
Yeah. Especially after falling behind the way they did. But yeah, he did give a vote of confidence to Timmy McClain.
Don't believe they even came close to overlapping. Like 4 year difference.
I don't know if you sent me the tweet or if I sent it to you and I was like, how does he know?
Well, maybe they know each other. Well, no, because Matt's from Virginia, so it's not even like there could have been some.
Yeah, but quarterbacks can train together. I don't know. Who knows?
No idea.
I really don't know. But yeah, so I mean, 5th quarterback in 5 seasons and 7 in 6 seasons. So
that's just.
We've talked about this a lot.
It feels not representative of reality, though, because it doesn't feel like UCF's had that much quarterback turnover, does it?
Yeah, it kind of does.
I guess it does. I don't know.
Because we've talked about this in the past where it's like it's kind of changed how the UCF quarterbacks like careers have like not ended, but like changed in terms of like Dylan transferring. The end of their time as UCF's quarterbacks, what I'm trying to say, has become different because it was like for Milton, it was obviously the injury. And then for Mac, it was like him getting injured in the offseason leading into 2019 cost him the chance to start in 2019.
Yeah.
And then it was Dylan, where Dylan transferred. And then Mikey just kind of lost his job to an incoming transfer. It's just kind of changed. And early on, it was an injury thing where it was like, why can't a UCF quarterback ever, just stay healthy and we see like a full career of theirs? But then it's kind of just different factors that come in.
So I'm trying to think how all their UCF careers ended now. So Wimbush, that was like a whole thing. Gabriel transferred. Mikey got benched and transferred.
Yeah.
JRP's hurt and will presumably be back. So yeah, it's weird how it's like all of them is a different situation. Like there's no repeats there. There's a transfer because they want to leave. There's a transfer because they have to leave. There's a lot.
Even Dylan's was like in injury and then he transferred. Like he was going to try to transfer anyway, I think.
Yeah, but we like that. I don't think he was going to transfer if he didn't get hurt. I think he was going to go pro if he didn't get hurt.
Maybe.
He was leaving UCF no matter what. There's no reality where he's back for UCF in 2022.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, we called that one. The second he got hurt, we were like, you have seen Dylan Gabriel's last UCF performance.
Yeah. All right, key stat number 3, moving away from the quarterbacks a little bit. We'll still kind of talk about Timmy. But this is about UCF's offense and UCF's rushing attack in general. 323.5 yards per game through the first 2 games. They have the number 1 rushing offense in the country right now. Small sample size, 2 games, but 389 rushing yards against Kent State and 258 against Boise State. And we talked all offseason about the running backs, the backfield they have, and how this would be a strength for them. And it has been so far, and that's where kind of you feel like Timmy can just, as long as Timmy can just do what he needs to do and not make UCF completely one-dimensional, they can only run the ball. Like if he can make some of the throws that he needs to make, I think that's where they'll be able to lean on that a little bit more.
Now, I will say RJ Harvey got a little banged up, which he's supposed to be fine, but still something to keep in mind. What would you say? Though, they'll just switch to one of the other 6 really good guys they have. Yeah. What would you say if I told you in the offseason that 2 games into the season, UCF is going to have the number 1 rushing attack in the country and that DeMarcus Bowman has 3 touches on the season?
I don't know. Yeah, it's a weird thing because we did talk going into the season. It was like, oh, they have a 2-headed monster in Harvey and Bowman, and then Bowman just is not getting he got the first carry of the game. This is what I tweeted at 10:30 on Sunday night. He got the first carry of the game, hit an 11-yard run, and didn't touch the ball again.
Yeah, I don't. And it's not like we just decided hey, we think Bowman is good. It was like everybody heard a ton of stuff that he was awesome and the staff loved him and wow, he's great. Now we're just not seeing him. I don't know what's going on there. I don't know if it was just an insane fake out. Maybe he's dealing with an injury. Maybe he's got some kind of snap limit. I don't know. I have no idea what's going on.
They just have too many, I don't want to say have too many running backs. You can't really do that, but
they do.
I've even thought the same thing where it's I want to see more of Mark Anthony Richards. He was really good in 2021. And
I've always said we're missing something there because it just doesn't add up. I don't know if there are some things on the field he's not good at. I don't know if.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But even still, you'd think there's value in getting him out there for the situations and the times, for the things that he is good at. Because
straight up won them a game in 2021. They had nothing against East Carolina. The team was injured as hell and just dead in the water, and they put him out there and he won them that game. And that was more or less the last meaningful time we saw him.
The trio that has been the main trio for UCF so far has been RJ, Johnny Richardson, and Jordan McDonald, who's now kind of taken charge of the old Wild Bowser formation.
Maybe I'll light a fire under him like I did with Colton Boomer, but I'm just kind of done with Johnny at this point. I know that's a ridiculous take to jump.
I can't quit Johnny.
I can't quit him since he played very well against Kent State and then just had one game. But it was the 2 plays where he tried to get creative for absolutely no reason. He could just run a straight line. And then it was him falling again. I don't know. It's not that I'm done with him. Don't play Johnny Richardson. I'm more just I don't believe you when you tell me he should be out there more than Bowman. I don't believe that. I just don't buy it.
Yeah, it's different because I approached Johnny Richardson with the mindset of you're going to get that from Johnny. But some of the other plays he makes are what make it worth it. Because he did, looking back at the Boise State game, he had 62 yards on 11 carries, 5.6 yards per carry. He also had 3 catches for only 10 yards, but
he's Killins if Killins tried to bounce outside after 4 yards for no reason. That's Johnny Richardson.
It's funny. I was talking to Zach, who I don't know, we've talked about Zach on the podcast before, but one of the guys who wrote with us at Night Sports Now, roomed with you, just one of our friends. And he even said that Johnny reminded him of Killins in terms of just of all of that, what we were just talking about.
Zach texted me an obscenity-filled rant about John Rice Plumlee both last night and then again this morning. So so we don't air a whole lot of Zach's takes on the podcast, but he's
he texted me, why is Richardson the backup? And I said I don't know. And then he said, it's giving me Adrian Killins PTSD.
Did he not like Killins?
That's what I was wondering. And when he said that, I was like, oh, I like Killins. Like,
that's a very Zach thing to not like Killins, I feel like.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's a Bills fan. He doesn't like Josh Allen, so
he doesn't. He also doesn't like Ed Oliver because he told me this was. I will never forget. I was when they drafted Ed Oliver. When was that? We were still in college, I think.
2018, maybe.
UCF was an AAC team at that point. He was a huge fan of UCF, and he was pissed that the Bills would use a pick that high on a group of 5 player. Is what he told me.
Yeah, he has a good variety of takes. You never know what he's going to think about a certain player or certain thing. But yeah, I mean, if they, and we don't need to spend too much more time on the running backs, like if they just lean on the running game and Timmy can do enough in the passing game, I'll still feel pretty good about this offense. And I really just didn't know, even with JRP, what to expect once they got into conference play. I don't know. Like I really wasn't sure because every game is like kind of a toss up. It felt like, so didn't really know anyway. But at least with going forward for the time that he's in the games, I guess few weeks, however many games that will be, I'll feel okay if he can just do enough. And if he does some special things, then that's even better. That's all a bonus.
UCF decided on a drive against Boise State, because the offense was having some issues in the red zone, to just run the ball on every single play and not even do crazy stuff in reverses, just straight up run the ball on every single play. And it worked. So I think that, and Boise State is not a bad team. So I think they will be able to, that running game will be able to cover up a lot of other issues, even if they present themselves with Timmy, I feel like.
Yeah. So let's get into how UCF can win the game and how UCF can lose the game.
Dumb segment for this game.
Too much on, yes. Yeah. Villanova, I will say, is 2-0. So it's a matchup of undefeated teams.
Yep.
Christian, how can UCF win this game?
By coming out of the tunnel.
Yeah. I just, lean on your strengths and your talent's going to win the game. That's it. I'm much, which this is now, it's going to be like, oh wow, UCF upset by Villanova or something ridiculous. I would feel better if they were playing one of the Florida FCS teams. They tend to be worse, but yeah. Yeah. We've seen that in college football where it's just like this team lost a game that no one thought it would. And
this podcast own Mikey Keene went to overtime with Eastern Washington. Now Eastern Washington's like an FCS power, so it's a little different, but Villanova goes to the FCS playoffs most years. They're not a bad team.
Did you just say this podcast's own Mikey Keene?
Yes.
I just clocked that. I like it. And then for how UCF can lose, I think I wrote this out and I just said I'm not even sure.
I wrote Hurricane.
Just a lot of things would randomly have to happen.
I just have Hurricane.
This is a sold out game. Villanova's like, I'm just going to show up in a sold out bounce house and just, I don't know.
The last time I made comments like this was Navy in 2022. So we'll
but Navy's
Navy's Navy, and this is Villanova. So Villanova, who, interesting little history lesson for you. Villanova and UCF, who were almost conference mates. These football teams were almost in the same conference as recently as about 13 years ago, because there was a point in time when the Big East was collapsing and everyone was leaving, that the Big East had a plan to add Villanova, and Villanova said, well, if we're being added, we're going to move our football team up to FBS. And UCF and Villanova, this could have been a conference game for the last.
How about no?
And then the Big East was like, "Oh, we're okay, thanks though. Like we don't want that at all." But yeah, interesting times.
All right, score prediction.
42-7.
42-7. I have UCF 45, Villanova 14.
Okay. Wow, you think they're going to score twice as many points as I do? That's crazy.
Yeah, one more touchdown.
I swear to God, when it's like midway through the second quarter and it's like 10-3 UCF, I'm just going to be like livid, because it could. They're bringing in a new quarterback. Yeah. Like they could start slow. That's not off the table.
The dumb part about it is like I could see that happening, but I also could see like 45 being not enough points. Like I did this with Kent State because I was like, I thought Kent State was going to be a little bit better than they were, and they scored 6 points, and UCF put up 56, and probably could have put up more if they wouldn't turn the ball over 3 times. Like they could put up a lot of points on Villanova. I just don't really. I can't lie to you and say I've watched Villanova football.
So no one has. So I was going to say that. Speaking of that, and I know transfer property isn't a thing and teams change week to week, but Kent State went out to Arkansas this weekend and gave them some trouble, which was surprising given it was 14-6 at halftime and ended at 28-6. And Arkansas had a hard time the whole way with a team that UCF eliminated, like just destroyed. And I know that teams change week to week, and Kent State probably is able to clean some stuff up. I know that you can play the exact same game 100 times and get 100 wildly different results, but I was still just like, noteworthy, interesting.
That's weird. I didn't know about that. That's a strange reality that happened. They changed a quarterback? Like what? I don't know.
I have no idea. I noticed the score like early in the day and was like, the hell's going on there? And then I saw how it ended and I was like, okay. I would just assume that Kent was going to be like a 2-10 team this year. And now I'm like, you know what? MAC champions. Who knows? Let's see what happens.
Maybe. All right, let's get into the football news. Then we'll do game of the week, then tweet of the week, and then 5-star review question that we'll get to. But the football news is pretty short. We've got UCF's week 1 uniform combo ranking 7th on Uniswag's countdown last week. We also found out on, I believe it was Friday, that DJ Pauly D will perform before the September 30th game against Baylor as part of UCF's Big 12 homecoming. I also learned that day that you didn't know who Pauly D was.
Okay. When I saw his face, I was like, I feel like that's one of the Jersey Shore guys, but I wasn't confident enough to like volunteer that. And I definitely,
I loved your tweet though. Okay, I'll bite. He said, okay, I'll bite. And we'll bring up Zach again because Zach texted me when you tweeted that. I'm gonna have to find it again. He texted me on Friday night and he said, oh gosh, where is this? This is bad podcasting. He says, does Christian really not know who Pauly D is? Excuse me. And I said, I really don't know. I kind of believe him. And he said, we were like 13 when that show came out. He's acting like he's 80.
Can I just say how much I love that? Instead of asking me if I know who Pauly D is, he texted you to try to find out if I know who Pauly D is. So
he also didn't call you Christian.
So this actually started because of, I know what he called me. So this actually started this whole thing and me in that tweet because I was talking with some other people about you had an Instagram story about Pauly D because you were that excited, and you said some stuff in it. You were like, "Yeah, buddy," and like cars Cabs or something.
Okay. Cabs are here.
Cool. And I did someone was saying like, "Well, how can you not know who Pauly D is?" Like, and I was like, "I think Bailey knows who he is," and they said, "Yeah, he obviously knows who he is because he included his catchphrases in his story." And I was like, "Oh, I thought Bailey was just like excited. Like I thought you were like, yeah, buddy, like he's coming." And then they were like, "Well, what did you think for Cabs are here?" And I was like, I don't know. I just didn't. Yeah. It just, so I'm learning a lot.
Yeah. I watched Jersey Shore a lot back then.
I did not.
Clearly.
Quick question. I know, what was the woman whose name sounded like a cookie or something? What was it? Snooki. That's right. I knew that. Yeah. Okay. Quick question. This isn't actually a big deal, right? Like this guy's like a has-been, right?
I don't know. Can't say I really followed him like since I was in middle school and watching.
Did you know he's a
Jersey
DJ
Shore
before?
Yeah. I mean, he was a DJ like on the show. Like that was like.
I thought this was like a post-reality show career.
No. Okay. But yeah, I don't know. I don't remember. Like I think Houston's came like their Big 12 homecoming like thing got announced too, and I didn't know that DJ, but I knew who Pauly D was. But probably just because I don't know DJs a lot in general, I just knew Pauly D from Jersey Shore. So
when Pilot Pete from The Bachelor DJs a UCF game, then I'll get interested. But until that happens, I'm just gonna not care.
See, I don't have any clue who that is.
We come from different reality TV worlds.
Yeah. As I mentioned a second ago, UCF and Villanova sold out on Saturday, which a very just a crazy thing that UCF has sold out. It's not even a home opener or anything. Like this is kind of like that right before conference play game that you usually typically think like, all right, not like, they'll get like 30,000, 35,000. It won't be like, it'll be okay crowd because it's a UCF game, but it's not going to be a sold out crowd, but apparently it is.
Which I will say, sold out in theory and sold out in the stands are two different things. So we'll see. But either way, even getting a technical sellout for an FCS game, like I said, you get it for home openers because it's like, oh, season's back. Third game of the season against nothing opponent, I'm very surprised in like a very pleasant way. I think this fan base is just, there's so much excitement right now, you know? Like it's just, it's good times.
Yeah. Unsurprisingly, and as the FS1 announcer kind of already said before he made the game-winning kick, Colton Boomer was named the Big 12 Special Teams Player of the Week. And I think the announcer also said if he made the kick, he'd be bigger than Mickey Mouse. And I think our Pegasus Podcast sources are trying to confirm whether or not he's bigger than Mickey Mouse yet, but we'll get back to that. We'll get back to you on that. But
I got to say that same announcer also then said that he believes that award should be taken away. The award he'd given to Colton Boomer on the air, then later said he should take it away because when Colton Boomer kicked the kick out of bounds. So
nice. Fun.
So thrilled that UCF will be back on FS1 for its Kansas State.
I saw. Game. Okay, so you're not liking FS1, are you?
I am hating
saw a
FS1.
lot of really.
I am craving the plus. That's how bad that this has gotten me because the broadcasts themselves are fine, like the actual technical quality. I don't mean to be like this because I really don't like to like insult people who are doing their jobs, but I can't with this crew. I seriously just can't. That Boise State game was the worst called game I've ever heard. My dad told me that he and my mom literally just muted the TV and synced it with Mark Daniels' radio feed for them, and I wish I'd done that because it was just.
They were getting on my nerves, especially like the play-by-play guy, and every once in a while the color commentator was getting annoying to me. But I thought that guy was very knowledgeable, like he had some good insight. So like that's why it wasn't completely like awful for me. But
you need to at some point do an ounce of research about the team that you're calling a game on. And they knew nothing about John Rice Plumlee. My favorite line of the night was when JRP is hurt, and they were basically explaining why it's his fault that he's hurt. One of them said, "I'll tell you." They said this. This is a quote. "I will tell you right now, there is no one in the stadium who knows how to slide better than John Rice Plumlee." Comment said they call. Okay,
well, they just said that because he's a baseball player.
I don't care. They called the Kent State. These are the same announcers who called the Kent State game last week. And when Jordan McDonald comes out, they're like, "Who is this? What's going on?" It's like you saw this last week multiple times. They had Johnny Richardson had a run at one point, and the whole run, they're like, "Great play by Harvey there, just fantastic." Like, and I get part of that is not on them because FS1 does not send their announcers to games, which is a whole other reason I hate being on FS1.
That's my issue with it, and why?
Oh, money.
So just a budget thing?
Yes. We're going to go on a little TV tangent. So during COVID, a lot of networks, including ESPN for a while, they weren't sending announcers to games because, COVID was going on.
Yeah, I remember that.
And didn't Herb Street call a game while having COVID from his house? I seem to remember that.
He might have. I don't remember, but probably. Sounds like a 2020 thing that would have happened.
And then COVID ended, and not everyone went back to the way things were before because a lot of these studios and networks were like, "Now hold on a minute. We're saving an awful lot of money by making our announcers clueless on purpose. And maybe we should just keep doing that." So from that perspective, I feel for the announcers, but it's just, you can't call games for the same team 2 weeks in a row and then somehow know that little about the team. That's frustrating to me. Very frustrating.
Yeah.
Also, they were too. All right, we're going to keep going. They were also too critical of players on both sides, and that bothered me. Like either a Boise State player or a UCF player would screw up, and they'd be like, "Wow, what a terrible player!" Like they would just like lit light into them, and I'm like, "That's not really your job. Like you're not coaching the game. It's like just tell us what happened." I'm not looking forward to Kansas State being on FS1.
That's the next piece of news. Kansas State, UCF on FS1, 8:00 kickoff Eastern time. I'm personally not happy with the kickoff time just because it complicates my weekend. But
you just know the offense is going to come out and Timmy's going to be out there. They're going to be like, "Who is this? What happened to Plumlee? What's going on? Is this a trick play?" I'm calling that right now.
Yeah, and a reminder for that Kansas State game, you and I will be doing our post-game podcast at Nights Out Pub off of University on Technological Avenue. So.
Man, saw some videos from Nights Out from this past weekend. Looked awesome. Looked like a super fun
time.
So
I need to see those. Actually.
You gotta be following Nights Out Pub on Twitter like I am. But yeah, it looked like a super fun time. So I am very excited for that. Until UCF loses, when we will give a very depressed podcast to an entire pub, which will be great.
It'll be good. I think we'll be all right. It'll be fun. Looking forward to that. And then now game of the week. Also looking forward to this. UCF women's soccer opening up Big 12 play. On Thursday at 6 p.m. hosting West Virginia. UCF's 4-2. West Virginia's 4-2. This just feels like a big deal because it's like the first Big 12 conference game of any UCF team.
Oh, that's true, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now I care. When is it?
I believe it's Thursday.
I haven't watched a second of women's soccer since the Georgia game because I just was so angry about that. And I was so annoyed. I'm shunning them for a little bit, but I guess I'll break it. I'll go watch it.
They just beat USF on Sunday night.
I know. I almost was like, maybe I should have watched, but that Georgia game made me unreasonably angry. Like I was pacing my house in sadness after that. So it's been a minute.
Yeah. And then also, this wasn't game of the week, but men's soccer on Friday will play West Virginia in their first Sun Belt game. No, that's not true.
They've played a Sun Belt game. Yeah.
They played FIU. I forgot Sun Belt. I got to get straight the Sun Belt teams in my head, but they will be playing West Virginia on Friday. All right. Tweet of the week.
We got to do our 5-star question, buddy.
I thought we were going to do that after tweet of the week.
No. Why would we? We always end with tweet of the week.
Okay.
I don't know why my smile just fell off my face.
Like you was like, I just crushed your world.
that reply stunned me. I'm like, we have to end with tweet of the week. Like
as the closer of the podcast, you were like, my whole world just been turned upside down. All right, our 5-star review question, which we didn't do at the top because I was a bad host. All right, I'm an out-of-state UCF fan coming to Orlando in April. I have one free day. What UCF themed stuff should I try to do?
What do you have?
So my first thought was April, like if the schedule lines up, and this is just a big if right now, is if there's a home softball game, go to a UCF softball game just because those are fun. The Plex is great, always full. And it'll probably be April's right around conference play, so it'll probably be a big game. So if UCF softball's playing, I'd say go do that. And even if they're not, I just feel like if you want to do something UCF centric, like if there's a home sporting event, probably try that. But also, and it just depends on your level of like, I don't know.
how
I don't know
insane
if
you
it's a UCF,
are.
like,
If you're
yeah,
as
if this is
crazy
an
as
alum or if this is just a UCF fan. But like, whenever I'm back in town, I like to just kind of go around campus a little bit, just like check out the bookstore, walk around Memory Mall, just that kind of stuff. I don't know anything otherwise. What
Yeah,
I could
I would
think
say
of.
if your days luckily enough lines up with a baseball or softball game, I'd do that to get on campus. I'd maybe like go have lunch in the Union, grab Qdoba or something. Go check out the bookstore. Always check out the bookstore when I'm on campus because they got good stuff. Buy several Space jerseys and bankrupt yourself while you're here. And yeah, I mean, like I said, the big thing to me is just get on campus. I mean, it's like I always like I've only been graduated for when the hell did I graduate? 3 years?
2020?
Yeah, I graduated in fall. Yeah, but I like didn't, I wasn't on campus anymore because COVID happened.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I guess since like spring of 2020 was the last time I was like living on campus. And like every time I'm back for games, whatever, it's just such a good feeling, like being back where I went to school. So yeah, just hang out on campus, catch a game, get a game dog at the baseball game.
Game dog. If you get really lucky, maybe UCF. I don't know. Yeah, maybe UCF will be hosting Oklahoma or something. I don't know when the schedule should probably drop around December.
Yeah, I think
so.
We're still
If you get lucky, I mean, it'll probably be a big conference. If they're at home, it'll be a big conference series anyway. So that would be
every Big 12 one is a big one. So like you're set at that point.
That's true. All right, now we can close out the podcast with tweet of the week, sir.
Tweet of the week. So I gotta say, one of our favorite listeners, Wild Bill, I was gonna award him tweet of the week for a thing that he tweeted, but then he expressed to me that he was excited at that. And I've said before that you do not get tweet of the week if you were excited for or trying to get tweet of the week. So automatic disqualification, unfortunately. So instead, tweet of the week is going to go to many of you. I'm just going to collectively assign tweet of the week to everyone who either hours after the game had ended or the morning following went back to tweets from the first and second quarter and replied to them as if they were in real time. I don't know why you people do this. God. I don't know. Like I literally, my favorite one was after Javon had that insane corkscrewing through the air catch, I tweeted something along the lines of he's going to make an NFL team very happy next year.
I just tweeted Javon Baker, dog.
And then the next morning, someone replies to me and goes, I'm guessing you tweeted this before his fumble. And I'm like, A, you're right. B, so Javon sucks now because he had one bad play. I'm so sick of people. It's like they just wait. It's like a tweet when I'm live tweeting a game is a tweet in the moment. It's the same for everyone who's tweeting a game. And to then go back hours later and be like, wow, I can't believe you tweeted this given that something completely different happened in the third quarter and that player was good then or bad then or whatever. Yeah. It's like, can you just stop that? Like just let it go. Good Lord.
Yeah, I have a tweet that just perfectly summed it up because this is actually somebody that I worked with really like a week or so of overlap at Pewter Report. John Ledyard covers the NFL and he tweeted something during the Bucs game yesterday about Baker Mayfield looking lost. It was early in the game. The offense had like 30 yards through like 8 drives or something like that. And someone said, not sure this aged well, and then like went on because the Bucs came back and won. And then he replied, most tweets aren't intended to age at all. They are a description of what is happening at the time of the tweet, not a prediction of the future. That's and I have it bookmarked because I will be using that because and he went on because I had a conversation. He said, it's one of the dumbest responses to a tweet possible. So do you just not want anyone to tweet about anything since it may not still be happening 30 minutes later?
But literally, like I will tweet like, hey, UCF is playing badly. And then an hour will go by and they'll get a touchdown and someone will reply and go, oh, how do you feel about that now? I still feel like they were playing badly an hour ago because they were. I have to end the podcast with something else because we have breaking news from Devad Wilson's Twitter account. Okay. Devad Wilson tweeted, they should have had Timmy in action. Y'all didn't hear that from me, though. So you heard it here first. Devad, you tweeted that, so we know where we heard it from, unfortunately. But yeah, so Devad Wilson, big Timmy McClain fan.
I did not even process that when you said that. Y'all didn't hear it from me. Yes, we
tweeted it. Y'all didn't hear that from me. I quite literally did hear it from you. So yeah. Oh, it's still Twitter. I'm not doing that.
It is, isn't it?
Like, what is it called now?
X?
Yeah, no, we're not doing that. It's Twitter. X of the week. It just doesn't hit the same.
We're talking about ex-girlfriends and stuff. It's just like, no. It's probably not the best thing to do.
That could be a very different podcast.
Yeah, we're going to stick to tweet of the week and not do
All right.
But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. We will end it there. Please keep leaving us your 5-star reviews. Keep asking us some questions with your 5-star reviews. Wherever you get your podcasts, whether it's Apple Podcasts or send in one of those Spotify replies. Another reminder that we'll be at Nights Out Pub after the Kansas State game to do our post-game podcast there. So come out and see us.
If you don't come out, then we don't like you as a listener.
He said it, not me, but cosign. You didn't hear it from me. Yeah, that's true.
You didn't hear that from me though. No, I love you guys no matter what, but I'm getting very excited for that the closer we get. I think it's gonna be a ton of fun.
But we will be back Saturday night with episode 160 after the Villanova game to talk about how Timmy looked and everything from that game. But until then, you can find us on Twitter at BaileyJAdams22, at @ByCASimmons, and at Night Sports Now. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll be back soon.
Bye, everybody.